Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Drunk Knitter Podcast. I am your host, Sophia. And if you are a new listener, then welcome. And if you're a returning listener, then welcome. Today, I'm going to have a very, very, very special podcast. I'm going to talk beyond knitting today. So grab yourself your favorite drink and your knitting, and let's get started. Today, I am drinking coffee without Bailey's. I'm a little bit sad. And I'm drinking water. Last week I talked about my birthday happened right before I filmed. And so I really wanted to stay off the hard stuff and kind of give my body a break. Well, guess what? My husband's birthday is a week after mine. And his birthday was on Thursday. It is now Sunday, and I am still exhausted. I mean, that's why I'm coming to you in my pajamas. For those of you who are listening, I got these really classy pajamas on. And and a sports bra from high school freshman track. For reference, I am now almost 30. And I still can fit into a sports bra, just barely. And I'm coming to you like this because I am still tired from my husband's birthday. We had such a blast. Started a day with, Woo. I started a day with a 5-star breakfast, okay, that I made, and I gave it that 5-star rating. It was 5-star. We had scrambled cheesy eggs. We had cheesy grits, y'all. We had hash browns, smoked sausages, vegan smoked sausages, of course. You know, hey, vegetarian, because I'm not vegan. I just don't eat meat. I eat eggs and dairy, but no meat. So we had some vegetarian smoked sausages. Coffee, juice, like the works. And we were so stuffed that we had to sit on the couch for like 3 hours binging trashy television. Like, we love to watch like old reality TV shows from the early 2000s and like relive our glory days in high school, talking about these TV shows. Like right now we are watching Rock of Love season 2. We've already watched season 1. And before that, we watched Flavor Flav season 1 to 2, and then we watched I Love New York season 1 to 2. So we have been binging like trashy television and loving it. After we binged our trashy TV, we played about like 9 or 8 holes or something like that at the golf course. Worked on my swing, and then we went to our favorite Mexican restaurant, Maria's Grill, in Noblesville, Indiana. And we got turned. We just shared one picture of margarita with our dinner. And then we went to the bowling alley across the street and bowled. We're a really sporty couple, by the way. Like, we love doing sports and stuff, and we're not becoming like couch potatoes and couch people. We do love to exercise a little bit, surprisingly. So after that, we went bowling, and then we got home and knocked out. It was great. And then yesterday, which was Saturday, then we went and we hung out with my in-laws. And we usually do like a joint birthday for my husband and I with our in-laws. And we just went out and we gorged ourselves on delicious, delicious Italian food from Pacini's in Lafayette, Indiana. And it was glorious. I ate so much dairy and fat yesterday that I tried to start my day off right today with some granola. Went to go run around the house, left my granola in my filming station because I was going to, do some sound checks and stuff as I ate. Came back, and my cat, Khaleesi, is eating my granola. So she started off with a really healthy breakfast. I think I got like 5 bites out of that thing before she decided to eat it. So I hope you liked my gluten-free, vegan, GMO-free granola, Khaleesi the cat. She's watching me. That's why I'm yelling at her. But okay, so that was my updates for the week. Now, this week, I have been knitting up a storm because I started my husband's birthday present the day before his birthday. And not even like the day before, the night before. It was like 9 p.m. And I'm like, I forgot to knit his birthday socks. And I knitted these really funny socks using Croy sock yarn patterns, Croy sock yarn, and self-striping sock. I think it's called like Old Blue Rag is the colorway. I put the colorway on my Instagram because everyone was just so curious about how, like, what this colorway was. And for those of y'all who didn't see it yet, it's just like a rainbow self-striping sock color. But in between, like, the rainbow colors, it's like a gray. So it kind of breaks it up. It gives me little sock arms, and like I think it's called like the little sock arms pattern vibe for those of y'all who've seen it, where you use like a self-striping yarn on the arms of a child's sweater and it creates like this fun sock like element to the sweater. It's kind of like that. I would love to make this into like a little sock arm sweater for myself. I think the designer, I can't remember her name. Oh, I'm terrible. She has an adult version, but how cute would that be? Oh, so cute. I love this sock. And when my husband first kicked this out, I was like, really? You want that color? You want the clown sock color, you know? Because my husband, he's a little professional. Like, he works, he's technically like a boss. So he's going to be walking around wearing his stripy socks in the office. And he is so excited. Like, I had to take these for my video podcast just to show y'all. I had to take these, like, out of his stash. Like, he already put them away. My husband doesn't put anything away, okay? I put it away. And I had to put these out of, like, take these out of his, like, secret stash because he loves these things. And I love Croy sock yarn. It wears like iron. It is not super soft. It kind of irritates my eczema, so I would love this in a sweater, but I think it'll just kill me. Like, I would just have a big rash. But it's just, there's a reason why this yarn has been around forever. And I do know that it's superwash. Look. I do know that it is superwash, so it is made... It is covered in plastic, and it's not really the best for the environment. But when it comes to socks, I'm probably still going to do superwash for most of them, especially my husband's socks, because he just can't handle regular wool socks. They would be felted kitty cat socks in 2 seconds. Because he believes everything belongs in the dryer. So I worked on his socks. And then, once I finished those... I worked on my Made for All Humans pullover. Oh, hallelujah. I love this thing. Oh, I cannot wait to wear it. I've never knitted something where it's like I'm this excited to wear it and never take it off. For those of you who don't know, this pullover that I'm working on, I don't have a name for it yet. But it's gonna have quite a bit of negative ease depending on your preference. I was kind of short on yarns. Positive ease, sorry. So this sweater is gonna have maybe like an inch or two, I think 2 inches of positive ease for me, for my body. But you can actually wear it with up to 4 inches of positive ease if you would like. It will just be that flattering. And then your guy friend or boyfriend or husband can take it and put it on too if you guys are similar sizes. It is gender neutral. And it's going to come down for women. It's going to come down past your butt region. That's the technical term. So when your significant other or a friend or whoever decides to put on the sweater, it'll hit him at the right place. Slightly longer than a t-shirt. It's gonna be like one of those like cute like asymmetrical tops that I see these like young guys wearing and that I like to wear because I like to wear leggings and sweaters, and I don't like it when my sweater is up to here and then my leggings is down here and then I have like, you know, a gap when I bend over where you can see my butt region. So yeah, that's why I wanted to make this sweater a tunic length so I could bend over, I can stretch, I could do Pilates, I can get groceries, I can watch some kids, you know, I can just have the time of my life. Like, this design is perfect for teachers because I used to be a teacher. That says teacher on my mug in case you're listening or cannot read it. And I love being a teacher. And for me, with teaching, I had a very hard time finding clothes that were very fashionable yet appropriate to wear in a classroom. And I work with little kids, so I was constantly on the floor living my best life. You know, dancing, doing yoga. Like, I'll come in and I have to do yoga. And next thing you know, I'm doing math. And next thing you know, I'm doing like duck, duck, goose. And it's just like nonstop moving, getting up and down from the floor. And it's really important for me to wear something that I could bend down in, you know, and not show all the goodies, but then at the same time that looks really classic, and you could throw it on with anything, any pair of leggings, jeans, whatever. You could wear it with boots. You could wear it during the transitional months because it's light enough to wear like through spring, all like from fall all the way through spring. So I am so excited for this sweater. Ooh, I'm so excited. And then I also worked on my Aria top this week, just the pattern. And I just designed this pattern all week. I was just crunching numbers all week. I never graded a pattern before, so I chose to have a test knit for this one just because I'm really scared that when it gets to the larger sizes, because this pattern starts at a size 30 and right now it goes up to a 44. And I was worried when it gets up to the 44, there wouldn't be enough, like, I might miscalculate the body differences, you know? So I love that I have test knitters out. As of now, when I post this, I might have enough test knitters. So thank you everyone who signed up. I love y'all. Y'all are brave. Y'all are brave because this is my first graded pattern and I worked so hard on this. I was in like Google Sheets. Like, I lived in Google Sheets making this like Excel sheet. Like, and I love the Aria top, and I'm not really like skinny like anymore. I mean, so it is a crop top, but there is a longer version, and I knitted the crop top and I showed like, and I posted pictures in the crop top, and I was like, well, you know what? All these skinny girls can wear these crop tops. I'm like, I'm not skinny. I got a little more going on. So I'm like, let me just wear a crop top too. Why not? I can wear it, and I wore it. And thank you everybody for such nice comments. I wasn't really nervous at all about wearing a crop top and then posting it on social media. Believe it or not, like, I'm very like, yeah, that's just fun. So I'm really excited for the Aria top. Again, thank you for my test knitters. And for my last update, before we get to the juicy part of the podcast, guess what? You have about 1 week to enter my Joy Shawl giveaway. All you gotta do to enter is just cast on your Joy Shawl and make a Ravelry pattern with the hashtag Joy Shawl KAL. That's it. And guess what you can win? You can win one skein of neighborhood studio sock yarn in any color your heart desires. Or you could win one skein of, oh my gosh, I can't remember my other. Hold on. Okay, I had to think for a minute. One skein of forest fiber arts in a color that I chose that I think is so gorgeous. And I will be posting an update to that today on my Instagram, which is Sunday. This Sunday, is it the 24th? I think it's Sunday the 26th. That's today's date, I think. So, yay! All right, so let's get to the juicy part of the podcast. Today, I just wanted to, in honor of my Joy Shaw knit along, I did want to share my miscarriage story. For those who don't know, the Joy Shawl, for this month of August only, if you purchase one Joy Shawl pattern, $1 from your purchase will go to the Share organization, which is a wonderful organization that give families who just either went through a miscarriage or infant loss. It gives them a place to gather resources, talk to other families. It gives them a place to heal. And in honor of that, I really wanted to talk about my story and share my story of miscarriage. So this might be triggering to some people, so that's why I saved it for the end. So if you don't feel comfortable listening to this, I completely understand. You can just end the podcast here because I'm just going to share my story and just sign off. So you're not really going to miss too much, like updates-wise. So here we go. So when I first got pregnant, it was the happiest time of my life. I honestly felt I was pregnant before I even knew it. And then I had to leave work one day because I was throwing up. And I was throwing up because I had the stomach bug, not because I was pregnant, but I thought it was because I was pregnant. And I took my test. Just so happened, I was not only pregnant, but I had the stomach bug too. So that's nice. And it was just a glorious time. And few weeks after the pregnancy test, because I think I found out when I was like 6 weeks. So it was only like a few weeks later where I went for my ultrasound, and that came out beautiful. We heard baby's heartbeat. My husband and I, we were so excited. We were crying in the ultrasound room. And then, oh, there's like a fly buzzing. I hope y'all can't hear that. And then a few weeks later, just living my best life, planning for the baby. I already was switching into clothes, like different clothes. Like my leggings weren't fitting me anymore, possibly because of bloating more so than showing. And then I also had to get like maternity bras because I needed that extra support and comfort. And I was just so excited. Like I signed up to be a member of like the motherhood store, and I was there and I knew everyone that worked there, and I was just loving it because at this time I worked with children. I worked with families, and so I love children. I love babies. I love loving on babies and children. Like that's what I did for a living for 3 years. So, and at that time I was still doing that. So it really meant a lot to me to finally become a mother and have children of my own, And then I was about a week away from entering my second trimester when I noticed some spotting. And this is the reason why I want to share this story, because what happens next is like, I felt like the health industry kind of failed me when it came to emotional support. So anyway, I'm trying not to drag this on forever. I started spotting, and I didn't think much of it because when you become pregnant and you get that first good ultrasound, your doctor sits you down, at least at my clinic, and they just like talk to you about what to expect, and they said, I might have some spotting, and that's normal. And so I was like, the first night I had spotting, and I was just like, this is They say it's normal, but I didn't really feel right because I also had cramping. It was very mild, and this was late at night. So I decided, well, let me just wait till tomorrow morning, see what happens. But that night, I also just kind of knew that something was wrong. That day, I bought a maternity dress because I was just so excited. And I saw one that was really cute in Target. Because I don't know, I just wanted to enjoy my pregnancy. I didn't want to be like, oh, I should wait because a miscarriage can happen. I already had a good ultrasound. I was feeling generally good, and I bought this maternity dress, and I was so excited. But that night when I started spotting, I just remember just like clutching the dress and crying. And my husband's just looking at me because I'm already like an emotional wreck being pregnant, you know, in first trimester. So he's just looking at me like, okay, this is going to pass. I'm just overreacting. And so that night I cried myself to sleep. And next day I wake up, I'm still spotting. My husband's at work. And I decide, okay, I'm going to go to the hospital. First I tried going to like a clinic. But unfortunately, clinics that do ultrasounds, they don't do that on the weekend. They're open on the weekends, but a lot of the times it's hard to get an ultrasound in the middle of nowhere. We live in the middle of nowhere, guys. It's hard to get an ultrasound on the weekend. So I went to a hospital that's right across the street from my husband's job, just so that way he can run out and meet me there if needed be. So this was a different hospital than what my OB was associated with. And I went to the hospital. I was shaking in my boots the entire time I drove there. It was quite a drive because I went to there's only 2 hospitals close to me, and they're both about 15-20 minutes away from my house. Yeah, so I had quite a drive until I got to the hospital. I signed in, and they led me into a room, and it was a nurse, a female nurse, and a male like nurse assistant, or maybe a nurse in training, something like that. And I was explaining my symptoms of, I was cramping, I was bleeding, and I noticed a little bit of clotting. Very, very small bits of clotting. And I was scared. And at this point, I was trying to hold back my tears. And so I gave him a urine sample, and I went back into the room, and the male nurse assistant was just like looking down. He didn't want to look at me. And once he checked everything, like he barely said a word to me, he put his head down and just basically ran out the room. And then at this point, I was just like, this can't be good. Like this poor nurse assistant is just, he can't even bear to be in this room with me because I'm possibly losing my child. Or he already knew from my symptoms that I was most likely losing this child. So that's when the waiting started. I just had to wait for blood test results. Those came out fine. And then I waited for my urine sample. That came out fine. And then finally the lab techs got there because it is the weekend in the middle of nowhere, and their ultrasound techs weren't even in the building. So, I know it's just, when you live in a rural area, there's so many pros and cons, and medical is definitely a big con. We are getting a hospital closer to us, but it might not be, the same thing as having a hospital in the city. So the ultrasound tech picked me up, and she was very optimistic, and she was like, don't worry, we're going to figure this out. And she got me prepped and ready, and I went in for my ultrasound, and as she's doing it, I start to panic because I look over and her face is just solid, expressionless. And I'm like, okay. I ask her, can you tell me, please tell me, how does it look? Is my baby okay? And she said she can't tell me. And she says this with a very even tone, very, very stoic face. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know what to think. I mean, it's like, well, if it was good, wouldn't she just be able to just break that rule and say, oh yeah, your baby's just fine? Because that's good news. But if it's bad, there's no chance of her saying anything because I would just freak out during that ultrasound. And she wouldn't be able to finish it. So that's when I realized there's a strong possibility that I had miscarried. And then I just started to wait. During the ultrasound, I just waited for her to be done. And then finally she asked me in the middle of it, she said, is there anybody here with you today? And I thought that was a weird, random question. And I said, right now, no, but my husband should be here any minute because I had texted him to come meet me. And she said, okay, good. And then I just start to panic even more. And then when the ultrasound is done, she rolls me back into my room and her face kind of just falls when she realized my husband isn't there yet. And she's like, don't worry, he'll be here soon. But she sounded like she was about to cry. Like everyone I encountered just looked like they were barely holding it together. Which was very hard because I was the only one not in the know. Like it seems as if they all knew what was going on except for me. So that was extremely hard. Finally, my husband was let in, and we were just watching Dr. Pol on Animal Planet, trying to act normal. And finally, the doctor comes in, and you know what his first words were? His first words were, I don't know how to say this, but it doesn't look good. At that moment, I just lost it. Crying, screaming, I just saw like my whole world just shake. And he told me that he's gonna leave now because I was too like inconsolable. He didn't say it like that, but he said, I'm just gonna leave it and wait for you to calm down. And I said, no, come back and tell me what happened to my baby. Like, why would you leave? You just say it doesn't look good and now you want to leave? In the end, he just told me that it looks like just development wasn't going, just that everything didn't fall into place as it should. It wasn't because I was working a lot, because I did used to work a ton as a pre-K teacher. It wasn't because I was sick with the stomach bug. It's just what happened. There's nothing to say after that. And they just left me there with a pamphlet about how it's not my fault. And they left me with just saying, sorry, your baby stopped developing at 7 weeks, pretty much right after the ultrasound, or 8 weeks or whatever, 9 weeks, I can't remember. And that's it. And so that's why I really love the SHARE organization, because it really helps women like me come to terms with their loss. And we all have loss. Like loss is something that we all can relate to. And it's something that, like, we all feel. And it connects us as human beings. And in that day that I was in the hospital, it's just like, hey, your baby died. This is really sad. I don't know how to talk about it. Here's some pamphlets. Done and done. Usually when you lose a person, like a family member in the hospital, a chaplain comes in and talks to you. And even if you're like not religious, like the chaplain is usually non-denominational, even in like a Christian or Catholic hospital. The chaplain is trained in all religions, and on top of that, that chaplain's just trained to help navigate through your grief and to help you find good resources and support groups, and not just a pamphlet with outdated information and with very little guidance. Like my husband and I, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. And we didn't know what to expect. My doctor just told me, he just told me that I will just start cramping and the cramping will get really bad. And just brace myself for that. And that my own OB will fill me in more about that and give me prescriptions if needed and things like that. And that's it. I had no idea that I would go into labor pains. I had no idea that the clotting would be that bad. I didn't know that I'd be out of commission for weeks because I literally gave birth in my bathroom. And I felt like it was very unfair that most women with living children have the option to give birth, either at home if they want or in the hospital. Me, because my baby was already dead, I wasn't given that option. So I had to suffer through it at home by myself with very limited resources. To the point where, at the end of it all, I almost needed a blood transfusion. Because they say, in that pamphlet, they were like, oh, if you start feeling dizzy or lightheaded, go to the emergency room. Of course I'm dizzy and lightheaded. My baby has passed. And it's hard to tell, what is psychological pain and what is physical pain at that time. And I lost so much blood that that a week later when I returned to work, when I wasn't even ready to return, I shouldn't have, but I felt obligated to, because as working women, we always felt like we have to power through our female struggles, our women's struggles, like periods and miscarriages and pregnancy. Like there seems to be like a lack of empathy when it comes to those like women's struggles that we don't talk about. So I felt like I had to go back to work. I had to get back and in action. And I was still losing blood. And by the time I got my next period after that, I went to the doctor because I was just psychologically, I was just feeling really, really depressed. And they did blood work on me. And he said, honestly, I think you should get a blood transfusion. You're at the cusp of, you might be able to wait it out. But he said he would feel more comfortable if I got one. So I was slowly bleeding out and I could barely feel it. I just felt depressed, and which you will feel after losing a child. And I just felt exhausted, and I could have died. And when I was looking into other women who miscarried and everyone else's story, people had similar stories. They were left to give birth in their bathroom. One man woke up in his bed and found that his wife was bleeding out in the middle of the night. And he had to rush her to the hospital, and she almost died. These stories aren't uncommon. Ever since I started the Joy Shawl knit along and I started talking about the Share organization, more and more of your stories have been coming out of the woodwork. And this is something that we really have to bring to light, no matter how difficult it is to talk about. If you're comfortable talking about it, you can make a video. You can post on the Share organization. They're looking for writers. It's just something we really got to talk about, because from giving birth and being in labor in my house for about, I want to say it was like, I started giving birth at 3 a.m. and so I went to labor and started having contractions at 3 a.m. and I finally gave birth at 3 p.m. Having contractions for 12 hours in my own house, giving birth on my bathroom floor, and then bleeding out. I should have been in a hospital. I've been put in the hospital for much less. I just don't understand. Maybe, like, someone explain to me, if someone's in the medical field, explain why you don't go in a hospital when you're miscarrying. I just feel like I should have been in the hospital. And many women feel the same way. We should have been in the hospital because it's a physical struggle, it's a psychological struggle, and it's a little unpredictable. And you might even be too depressed to follow up with your postnatal care. Like I was almost too scared to keep going. Like my husband had to take off of work and drive me there to get the last few ultrasounds. It was too much. And the whole ordeal left me with PTSD trauma. Where I would have flashbacks and stuff like I get triggered by blood now or babies and things like that. So I had to quit my job because of this. Which is why I do YouTube now, and I'm trying to do YouTube. And I make knitting patterns and things in the fiber community. I'm trying to set that off now because I can no longer work as a teacher, and I absolutely love being a teacher. I loved it. And I miss it every day. I do. So that's my miscarriage story. If you're still here, thank you for listening. When I first started my podcast, I really wanted to share why I started my podcast. It was because I just made a career change, or I was thinking about making a career change. When I first started my podcast, I still had the intention of working full-time as a teacher because I absolutely loved it. But the more I started doing nitty stuff and the more I thought about it, the more I realized how emotionally stressful it is to love on everyone else's children when you can't even physically love on your own. It's just too emotionally jarring for me. So I just hope by sharing my story, because that I can reach out to y'all, because when I first was going through my miscarriage, I was looking for YouTube videos on it. You know, I was looking for people who went through it. I was looking for evidence that I wasn't the only one suffering as much. So, yeah. That's my miscarriage story. So thank you everybody for putting up with me for this 40 minutes. And to end on a better note, I just would like to say that I am now doing a lot better emotionally, psychologically, and physically after my miscarriage. So my husband and I were just working on living our best lives. That's what we really are working on doing. We're working on living our best lives ever. I love working from home now because now I'm not exhausted when I come home. I get to spend time with my husband and I get to actually enjoy my life for once. You know, starting this new chapter is kind of scary, but at the same time, it's so worth it because I have a more enjoyable life. So when we do have living children, whether they're biological or adopted children, I will have a more fulfilling life to give them. So thank you for listening to the Drunk Knitter podcast. I promise next episode will be back to laughs and joy and drinking shenanigans. But I just really felt it was important to share my story during the last week of the Knit-A-Line. For more information about this podcast and things I mentioned here, just go to my website. It's linked below if you're watching the video. If you're listening, it's in my podcast profile. And I'll catch y'all later. Bye.